Ooh, that got really quiet. That made me think it's ready to begin, is it? I think let's get started. A few more people might trickle in, but it seems very formal to be standing up here with just the few of us, but we need the microphone to record so that people, when it's streaming, can hear it. And if we come around to you for questions, we're also going to have to hand you a microphone so that you can talk into it. It, again, seems kind of silly, but I'm Barb Hiltz. Welcome. I'm the director of the MSW program. And this is our third town hall that we've done here at the school, our first one this winter. And there are other people from your leadership team that are here today that I wanted just to introduce quickly. Tim Collenbeck is here from the Office of Student Services. Dan Fisher is here from the Office of Field Instruction. Our Dean Videka, is in the back row here. Mary Ruffalo is somewhere, but I don't see her now. Okay, there she is. She's the Associate Dean for Educational Programs. And then Lorraine Gutierrez is the Director of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. And then there are lots of other folks here from those people's teams to answer questions as well. We also have a couple of folks from the Student Union here. She is going to talk a little later and do some updates from the Student Union. And Kelsey, you want to say welcome?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm the treasurer of the Student Union and just wanted to introduce the members of the Student Union who are here. Also Kari, who is our social chair. And just say we're here. We have office hours every week, so come with any questions, concerns, things you're excited about. We're here.
And you guys have got some updates that you're going to give later.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I don't know if folks have been to other town halls, but just by way of introduction, this is the third town hall that we've done. We started talking about them actually about this time last winter, though, the need for town halls. And they came about because we realized that we're really good at asking for feedback, but not so good at turning that back around and letting you know what we heard and what in fact is being done with that feedback. So you were getting surveyed at every turn, and we were holding focus groups, and not just with students, but with graduates of the program and people in the community. And then there were lots of things that were being done, but there was sort of a curtain down, and people didn't really know what those things were. So this is one attempt to raise the curtain, and there are other things that are happening this term too. For example, the dean is doing some drop-in sessions monthly now, just as a chance to dialogue with folks. So we're hoping that you can hear a little bit about what's happening. You can also give us some feedback about those things, and then you'll have a chance to ask some questions. So this is what we were thinking we would cover today. The field office has got some updates that they want to give. We're just embarking on a pretty major curricular review, and so we wanted to talk a little bit about that and the process for moving that forward. Mary Ruffalo is going to talk about our exit survey and some of the data that we got from that and what we're going to be doing with it. And then the DEI office is going to be giving some updates about the strategic plan and how that is all moving forward too. And our intention is to do just a few minutes. Each of us will just talk for a few minutes about those things, and then we'll have questions between each topic, and then most of the time at the end will just be open, and you can ask questions about these or any other topics that folks have questions about too. All right, I think you're up.
Okay. Well, those of you that have had me in class know I don't like to stand still, so standing behind you is not my natural comfort zone, but I will do my best to continue to talk into the microphone so folks can hear. So as Barb mentioned, I'm Dan Fisher. I'm Assistant Dean and Director of Field Instruction at the school. And I've been here since May of last year, so coming up on a year. So really 2 full terms, and this is now my third. And we've been doing quite a few different things within the field office, I think, to address a lot of the feedback that we've got from students. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of an update about what some of those things are. So over the last year or so, we get a number of student feedback, both in person. I think we do exit surveys when students complete field. We get field information from the exit surveys that students do when they graduate. And here are some of the things that we've been hearing. One of the things is that there seems to be a more frequent need for quality support and feedback from field faculty. Because our caseloads are really high, I think the opportunities for support are somewhat challenged. The field faculty are very dedicated to trying to provide as much support as they possibly can, but we're trying to figure out ways to enhance that and have more touch points, not only each term, but throughout the terms as well. We also have heard that it's difficult to know what to do when field issues arise. Who do I go to? How do I talk to the field faculty? Do I talk to Barb? Do you talk to me? In general, the process that we've developed is we would always want that first go-to person to be your field faculty. And then I think beyond that, coming to me would be the next step that you would take. If that wasn't addressed adequately, then I think Barb or Mary Ruffalo would be the appropriate person to talk to as well. What you should know is that the field faculty and I meet on a regular basis. We huddle once every couple of weeks. They're in my office pretty much every day at multiple points throughout the day to kind of fill me in on issues that are arising or things that they want me to be aware of. So we have, I think, good communication within our group to identify challenges that are there or things that we need to be taking a look at to try to address. We also have heard that field is a financial burden. We know that you're traveling in many cases for your field placements. You're spending anywhere between 16 and as much as 32 hours a week in field. And we know that the experiences are crucial to your success and skills and developing knowledge as social workers, but we also know there's a financial burden associated with that. We also understand that our field instructors have varying degrees of experience and skill. Many are new to being field instructors and have never received much formal training in how to be a teacher, a mentor, a supervisor, and really even knowing what the difference is between those things. We also realize that our initial orientation that we do for students for field, we were able to cover everything in a day, but we also know that that's an awful lot of information to provide at once. And then to try to remember it a month later or 2 months later when you have things that are hot topics is tough to follow. So we've tried to adjust that. And we realize that it's difficult in many ways to relate some of the competency-based language that I think field is really about, that CSWE is really honed in on, and how to relate that to your field placement and to the direct practice experience that you're getting. So we've tried to really address those things, I think, over this year. So one of the things that we did, some of the new initiatives that we've taken on, is field orientation has gone from just one day at the start of your term when you begin here to really being done over the course of the semester. So we provide essentials for success in field, which is something that we established in September. I want to give Dacia Price full credit for the name for Essentials for Success in Field. We bantered about a number of different things, but that was the one we settled on. So I give Dacia full credit. Now we just call it ESFSS, and I can't remember what that means. I just write the initials down. So, but we found that it's really more of an opportunity to provide just-in-time information when students really need it. We've made changes to the social work travel stipend with the support of Mary Ruffalo and the dean to increase the number of students that receive travel stipends for going to their field placements. We've had changes in new agency visit orientation around pointed discussions around agencies providing stipends for students in field. We've always really addressed it with agencies, but we've made much more of a point when we go out and explore new agencies to discuss it as a possibility and really talk to them about what the needs are that students have related to their finances and related to some of the struggles around finances in relation to field. And many agencies have been very positive about providing stipends. So I think we've seen an increase. Probably about 60% of the new agencies that we've opened have provided stipends as we've had that discussion. We've also really taken a look at the changes to the Foundation Field Seminar. The Field Seminar has been around for many years, and I think the feedback has been varying from year to year. I think one of the things that we've done this past year is we piloted in 2017 the use of concept mapping to really try to connect the competencies to actually client experiences or client system experiences, and to get students to be able to think about that broader issue of social work. So we've tried to do that. And this fall, we actually had all of our field faculty after the pilot to incorporate that into their teaching of seminars, so we have a little bit more consistency within that. And then we've also really revamped our field instructor training curriculum. So we have 2 times a year that we offer training for field instructors, primarily all new field instructors who want to go through this training. Some of our experienced field instructors come back as well. we're actually going to add a third training seminar this summer for experienced field instructors that will go into more in-depth topics that they've requested for us. And we've tried to include really things around best practices around supervision, reflective supervision, mentoring, giving and receiving feedback, having difficult and critical conversations, and issues around ethics and pods as well. Many of the field instructors have been out for a long time, and they're less familiar with some of the DE&I initiatives that we've had. And then what I've tried to do is also have an open door policy for students to come in. The dean's drop-in sessions, I'm part of those. The field faculty know that I'm more than available to be able to meet with students, and I would say that I think I've increased that quite a bit over the fall. And please be patient with me. My schedule fills up very quickly, but if you want to see me, I'll get you in. So all you need to do is contact Molly Hunter, who does a terrific job in somehow managing my calendar. So I give her all the credit in the world. A little bit about Essentials. So these meet twice a month. We decided that we would offer them the same session twice monthly to try to give more students access. We offer it from usually a noon to 2 p.m. time when students are between classes. But we also realize that many students are in field, so we offer a 5 to 7 session, usually within the same week, within the month. We also have allowed students to be able to attend by Blue Jeans, and we've averaged somewhere between 50 and 125 students per session that we've done. So I think we've had a really good turnout, and the feedback that we've gotten has generally been quite positive. Each month, what we're trying to do is to provide critical information at the specific point that it's most relevant in the term. So for example, the one we did in January, at the end of January, was all around how to complete your field evaluation and how to think about doing that educational agreement. We'll do something in February around managing agency policy issues and conflicts with supervisors and things along that line that might come up. We'll do something in March around completing the evaluations and how to think about doing that aspect of the work. And then finally in April, we'll do something about preparing for the next term to think about that advanced field experience. What we also decided to do was to be able to count these hours as field hours. So students get 2 hours of field credit for being able to come, whether that's in person or over Blue Jeans. So if you come to all 4 sessions, you would receive a full day of field credit toward your work at the end of the semester. So we feel it's a way to provide that opportunity for students. I think the feedback that we've gotten has been good. As I mentioned, 50 to 125 students have participated each month. We've asked a number of feedback questions and have had good results on surveys. About 95% say their questions that they have, we usually reach out to them prior to the session to ask if they have specific questions that we try to address. 100% have actually found that the topics that we cover at the time to be helpful and relevant. And these are just a few comments that you can see students have made as well. We also recognize that there's some things that we continue to change based on that feedback. One of the things that students want is more specific examples about filling out your educational agreement, things that we can provide to you to use as models and going forward. So we've begun to do that as well. We also recognize that travel stipend really needed to be updated. Our old policy that was developed for a variety of different reasons was based on providing stipends to students in interpersonal practice concentrations that traveled more than 60 minutes from the school to their field placement. I think calculating minutes to me was confusing and didn't make a lot of sense, so I thought we should look at miles. In discussing with Mary and the dean, we were looking initially at 45 miles that we thought would be incorporate that 60-minute total. What we realized is if we did that, we cut out many of the field placements in Detroit. Detroit's about anywhere between 34 and 37 miles, depending on where you're going within Detroit. So the new policy is to provide students with a $250 a term travel stipend if they travel within a 30-mile radius of the school. So one of the things that we did is we had to do by the crow flies. So it's not what Google would say because it changes all the time. It's a 30-mile radius. But one of the nice things that we were able to do was to increase travel stipends from 60 students that received it in the fall to 105 that received it this term. So that's a substantial difference. And I think we've gotten nice feedback that students appreciate it. And I think it's made it a little bit easier for them to travel for field. I think if I took anything else out of here. No, I think that's it. A couple of other things that we're also doing, I think, toward the future. we're really taking a look at trying to create new models for field instructor training. So with Mary Ruffalo's help and Betsy Voschel, who was here before me, they created a web-based module on reflective supervision. We've updated that and are in the process of updating that, and we'll also be adding a new module, I think, related to ethics and related to crucial and critical conversations in receiving and giving feedback that field instructors can train. I think all with the idea that we want to move toward a field instructor certificate program, so they would get CEs for this, but also that we would want field instructors certified that they've completed this training before they begin to provide that supervision to all of you. I think one of the things that I'm also hopeful of doing is I've been working with Matt Smith and another field director colleague of mine at Western Michigan University. We're looking at creating online and through Matt's company that he's worked with around using avatars for field instructors to actually be able to practice reflective supervision techniques and giving and receiving feedback. So we're hoping to apply for a grant for this company and get something moving forward with that. It's very exciting, and I think we're excited about it. I don't know if you've seen some of the technology that Matt has, but it's really cool. It gives you an opportunity to practice again and again and again, which is what we all need to be able to do, I think, to improve those skills. We've been working on overhauling web resources on the field application process, offering more support and clarification for students. We know that it's confusing kind of when you come in, so we want to really be able to enhance that. We've also been updating we plan to update the field portion of the student guide. If you look at it now, it's pretty wordy and lengthy, and I don't know about you, it's something I could probably use to fall asleep at night. It's not something that where it's easy to find a lot of information, so we want to make it really bulleted and make it easy for students to find out the specific things related to field. We're also really looking at our overall process within the field office, kind of our design. Our caseloads are high, what we're trying to manage for you all. Ideally, what we'd like to create are 3 touch points throughout the term that folks would have with their field faculty. Right now, the primary touch point is a site visit. We know that can be awkward sometimes because that might be the first time you've really had a big conversation with your field faculty, and you're trying to give feedback on your placement in front of your field instructor, and that can be challenging. Sometimes it's hard for your field instructors to give feedback. So what we'd like to be able to do is to create an approach where we have an individual contact with every student, we have an individual contact with the field instructor, and then we do the site visit. We think that that'll be a much better way to provide the support that we want to be able to do. We're able to do that in some cases, I think, in some of the scholarship programs and things along that line. And we've gotten really good feedback, I think, from those students and the field instructors that they like that approach a lot. And so I think that we'll be doing that hopefully by spring, summer term, for sure by the fall. And then I think we're in the process of creating an Office of Field Instruction annual report that really creates more transparency, not only for students, but also for faculty. We have a number of students that are assisting us in that are part of the Fruit Scholarship. So we're excited we'll have that completed we hope, by the end of April. So those are some of the things that we're doing. I think that I also have been thinking about the possibility of creating a student advisory board for field, or what that might look like, or at least an opportunity for more specific feedback that you can see some of the things that we're trying to do, why we're trying to do them, why they make sense from a CSWE perspective, but also from a training perspective. I think the thing that I can tell you is I welcome your feedback. Please come if you want to meet with me and let me know how your field experience was. I welcome that. I want to know that. We want to make sure you have rich, quality field placement experiences. We're fully committed to that. I think our goal is to help to prepare you to be successful in this field and join this profession. And I will say the field faculty group, I've had a chance to work with a lot of different teams in my professional life. I don't think I've ever worked with a better, more dedicated team than this group. So from Dacia to Bill Vanderwill to Rachel Naskow, Lee Robertson, Sue Crabb, Mary Eldridge, they are terrific. So please let me know if you have feedback, thoughts. If you don't feel comfortable writing it down, please come and talk to me. If you feel more comfortable writing it down, that's fine too. So, and I think that's it for me. I probably went longer than I probably should have, but yes, I would love to take questions. Anybody here gone to Essentials? The Essentials for Success in Field? I think most of you guys look like you wouldn't have been part of it because it's generally the first semester students. Yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah. And that's what we hope. As opposed for you people to have to make individual appointments, if we can kind of again do that just in time information. It's nice to hear that feedback. Thank you. Good. Any other questions? If you have some, please feel free to stop by anytime. Our new office is on the second floor of this building, room 2660. We're going to be doing an open house now that we have all of our stuff in there finally. Molly went in March? Late March. So please come and visit our space if you haven't seen it already. We're very, very pleased to have it. So, okay, thanks. And I think next up is you for curricular review.
So we wanted to make sure everybody knew that we are embarking in a pretty major curricular review here at our school. It's being led by the curriculum committee. We've got a curriculum committee that's made up of faculty, but actually half of the voting members of the curriculum committee are students. So, and the students, I've sat on this committee for 2.5 years now, and it's a really involved committee. The students are really engaged and participate really actively. So the curriculum committee is leading it, but all of our faculty also, we've got a community advisory board made up of many of them are actually graduates of this program, but social workers in the community that are helping to guide that process as well. So this is a major review of our curriculum. I've been thinking about it like we're taking our current curriculum and we're setting it in the corner and we're trying to reimagine and re-envision what it could be so that it's reflective of social work practice today, but also the direction that social work practice is headed into the future, because there are trends that we can see now in terms of the future of social work. So it's going to include both the content, so what's the content of the curriculum, but also the delivery. So should we be thinking about outside of these boxes of 3 credit and 1 credit classes? Should we be thinking outside of just in-person classrooms? Should we be looking at more online or hybrid kinds of classes? So it's both about content and delivery. So there are a few things that sparked us wanting to do this now, why now was really the right time to embark on this process. The first was, it's been a long time since we've done it. We looked back, the curriculum committee looked back at when we've done major reviews of the curriculum over time. We went back to the 50s. And since the 50s, we've done a major overhaul of the curriculum every 10 years. But recently it's been 20. So that doesn't mean that nothing's been done to the curriculum in 20 years, but a major rethinking, reimagining of the curriculum hasn't happened in that long. So that was the first reason why now is the time. The second 2 have to do with our accrediting body. So we're our School of Social Work is accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. And we're not up for reaccreditation until 2022. So that gives us a lot of time between now and then to pilot and test drive some new initiatives and really get our curriculum set. We've got to collect a year's worth of data with whatever is our new curriculum before we go up for reaccreditation, but it leaves us a lot of time to do that. The new standards for accreditation are also a lot more flexible than they used to be. They used to give us buckets. It's one of the reasons why we have a policy bucket of classes and a human behavior bucket of classes. And now they've said, look, these are all the things that need to be in your curriculum, but how you incorporate them, they've really untied our hands about just how we can do that and what that could look like. So that also makes it a really exciting time to do it now. So when we have been thinking about the process that we're using to approach curricular review, it's going to be a long and very involved process. So starting last fall, we got clarity from the Council on Social Work Education about just what we could do and what we can't do. And we started doing some initial planning and laying out the timelines. We are now in winter. We just had in January a faculty retreat. And it wasn't just faculty there. We had a good number of students. The students who sit on our curriculum committee were there as well. We had field instructors and LEO instructors and members of our community advisory board, which I think offer a really neat perspective because they're, hi, come on in, welcome. having these folks beyond students now and their perspectives, I thought was really important because they helped us think not just about how you're experiencing the curriculum now, but when you leave and you're actually putting those things into practice, sometimes that changes your thinking about integration and what those things mean. So their perspective was really helpful. The curriculum committee is now taking what came out of that faculty retreat and looking at it and summarizing it. We're actually going to be presenting that back to the faculty tomorrow at the faculty meeting, a little summary of what came out of that retreat, and then working through till April when we'll have another time for our faculty to gather and move that process along. This summer, we're going to be working really hard and into the fall so that we've got a proposal for what the content of the curriculum will be pretty much mapped out by the end of the fall. And then in the winter of 2019, we're going to start thinking about how we go about implementing it. So this is the question of, are we looking at 1 credit and 3 credit classes? Are we trying to think outside of that? Should we be thinking about online and hybrid courses? So how are we actually going to be presenting that curriculum is happening in the winter? And then by fall, we'll have a chance to pilot and prototype some of the new ideas. And actually, I doubt we'll be waiting till the fall to do some of that. Faculty are coming to the curriculum committee right now with really unique ideas of things they want to try and do. And we're really trying to see it as an opportunity to test drive some of those ideas and see then how we could fold it into this curricular reform. And the hope is to have all of that done and have a new curriculum kind of up and ready to go by 2020. So I'm hopeful that all of you will not be here by 2020, right? You won't still be sticking around. You will have graduated, but if you want to be involved in some way, there's certainly lots of opportunities to kind of leave your imprint on what the curriculum could be. So I don't have a whole lot to say in terms of the meat of it because we haven't started digging into what the content of the new curriculum will be, but that was an overview of the process. Do folks have any questions about that? Yeah, you want to get a mic? Thanks.
So maybe this is too premature, but I was just wondering if there was going to be a consideration into more courses around substance use treatment. So hoping that's on the table.
On the table.
Great.
Yeah. I got to tell you, there's not a lot that's not on the table right now. Do you want to say more about your thoughts about need?
Yeah. I haven't seen as many courses available now that are like more involved, like 3 credit courses. I think there's a 1 credit course that's involved, but I think that, we often are working with populations that have comorbidity with mental health and substance use disorders. And I see also a huge gap in our current way that we provide care, in that it's still very siloed, and really see and would love to have, Michigan kind of be the forefront. And like, they're very much, intertwined and impact each other. And we really need to be considering both of those. So it'd be really great to have like more like full courses, or maybe even having substance use tied more into the existing. But this is something that a friend of mine is really passionate about and really wants to see more of, so I'm kind of bringing that forward for her. And also there was one other student that suggested that she also would love to see different kind of formats, like some more hybrid and online. So if people have like kind of snippets of ideas like that,
yeah.
Who should they email or get
they
in contact
could email
with?
Anyone and we would get it there. They could email me, they could email Mary, anyone on the curriculum committee. The student members will start reaching out to the student body at large so that you can reach out to your peers if that is more comfortable to folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. So you actually raised a couple of points. So one is about substance abuse on its own, but the other is about this issue of siloing. So when I think about the issue of substance abuse, there are so many things we could say. We could use to build a little more space in for people to take classes in lots of different areas. And if we talk to 20 of you, you probably say 20 different things are missing. Part of the problem that we're trying to solve with a curricular reform is just one of not having a lot of space. So students are pretty locked into classes, left with not a lot of electives. And so that's one of the big things that came up at our first retreat that we're kind of hoping to solve for. And also the issue of siloing. And certainly the literature would tell us that, right? That is not the way that social work is moving. And so our social work education should also be reflective of that. What other questions or comments do you have? Okay. Anything else you want to add about curriculum reform?
No, I just think it's a process that I hope that as you have ideas, because you're in classes and I talk loud, but as you're in classes and you're taking different topics, and one of the things that I know lots of faculty have talked about is some of our advanced classes are still pretty much a survey class and not the deep dives. And the other thing is we have students who come into our program that bring so many experiences and skills. And by this lockstep way that we do the curriculum, we're not allowing some students to challenge themselves in different ways for different skills. So we're really looking to be much more flexible with the curriculum. So your ideas are going to be very valuable.
There were so many ideas that came out of this curricular retreat. I mean, we're really excited about them. I brought the little summary. I thought I'd just tell you they sort of fell into some theme buckets. So one was this idea of making sure that we're using our stakeholder groups to get feedback. So that's all of you, and it's people who've graduated and are now using it. But it's also looking at other universities, who's doing these things really well, and what is it that we can learn from them. There was lots of talk of innovation, and how do we innovate now, but how do we create a curriculum that allows us to innovate over time and be flexible and nimble. There were lots of comments around comprehensive support to students, and then lots about scaffolding. So this is the idea of, sometimes we talk about building vertical and horizontal integration. So how do we take concepts and make sure that they're being taught consistently across sections of classes? And then how do we make sure that they're consistently being built on as you advance through the program? There were comments that fell under a little bucket around tailoring the program to users. So this really brought up a lot of discussion around advising and the importance, how important advising is to tailoring people's experience to what they're hoping to get out of it. So those were kind of some of the big major themes. And like I said, there were really just hundreds of good ideas that came out of it. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mary.
I actually have a handout. So feel free to take a copy of this. This is a handout that we gave the curriculum committee and the faculty for the retreat that talks about feedback that comes from our students that have graduated. Because if you're going to get involved in a curricular reform, you need to pay attention to your stakeholders. And our students have been so critical in helping us to think about where the gaps have been. And I thought it might be nice for you to see the students who graduated last year. There were 3 different cohorts. One was in April, and then we had August and December. And what we do is, when the week you graduate, you get this wonderful survey, and we say, hey, you don't have anything else going on, fill out our survey. And we've actually had a very good response rate, considering that it's at the end of the term and you're moving on to new jobs and new situations. So if you can look at this, you can take more time to look at a lot of the detail, because I wanted you to have this. But basically, it represents pretty much all of our concentration areas based on the size of which those concentrations are within our program. And as you can see, interpersonal practice tends to dominate because we have more people with that concentration. But you see proportionally feedback from each of the other concentrations with the same level of focus. The other thing is, we just gave you a little bit about the diversity of the students who completed the survey too, so you can kind of find out which of your student cohorts took this. And then one of the things that we've added in April, and these are some things that we thought were really important for us to look at, and that is many of our students really do want to have some accommodations, but they haven't sought them out before. So we wanted to get a tracking of the students who have had accommodations if they wanted to let us know if they've used our services here. And it's a pretty low number when you look at that on the second page. And so part of it is I wonder if people also know of what the services are. So those are things that this data starts to tell us. The other thing is we also started to add child or adult care responsibilities because we're finding out more and more of our students have child care responsibilities as well as adult care responsibilities. And so we wanted to make sure that we look uniquely at what their experiences have been in the program too. So on the other side of the next piece of this, we look at satisfaction with our faculty instruction. We look at access to instructors outside of class. These are all parts of the things we look at in the exit survey. And as you can see, it doesn't matter if you graduated in April or August or December, you pretty much fall in the same, you perceive your experiences about the same around the quality of instruction as well as the access to faculty. The other pieces down below on this third page really talk about the importance for many of you of whether or not you contribute to class discussions. That's very high. We're at like the 4.0 level on a 5-point scale. So many students feel like they've done that. But then when you look with communicating with an instructor outside of class about issues or concepts derived in class, that's not as high. It's only about 2. So when you have a scale of 5 and you're down that low, then we're questioning like how available are instructors, and also is it something that students would like to see more of? So we have questions to go with this numerical data that would be more qualitative focus group type data that we're going to be collecting this term from current students. And then on the other side, on page 4, we actually asked students how much of the assigned course reading they've completed. We've got a nice bell curve here. So what this is also suggesting to us is, and we've heard this consistently from students, is some syllabi you have so many readings per week that there's no way you can do all the readings, and how do you select which readings to do, and what is an appropriate load, and how much time outside of class should students be expected to be working on a particular class. We've got so many questions that this raises for us. So ideas that you want to send to the curriculum committee about that would also be appreciated. Then we did have some qualitative questions that we asked that were they were open-ended, and I must say I am impressed with the amount of detail our students filled out on these open-ended questions. Normally when you have an open-ended question, you might get maybe a third of the people who fill out the form to fill out the open-ended. Every student filled out the surveys. So basically what we tried to do is look at the key themes. So if you look at in April, we had asked them what were 3 significant things they learned about social justice, diversity, and equity. And the April cohort, about 35% of them talked a little bit about intersectionality as one of the top areas. The second top area was being able to listen to the experiences of others, and then becoming more knowledgeable or more informed about the communities in which they were working. So those were like the 3 takeaways that people were taking. So I'm not going to read through each one of those, but it gives you a sense that these were repeated multiple times by different students. And then what would you have liked to learn more of? If you look at just like, let's just take the August 2017 group, their top one was advocacy approaches, practice having dialogue and making change on campus. So they're looking more for action versus just talking about things. The second one is really understanding more about the history of inequity in social work, and then ways to restore harm and be intentional and mindful moving forward. So these are very thoughtful comments that students had made. So I do want you to look at that and maybe think about where you would put yourself at this point if you had to answer those questions. And I always like this question, which is, what was one expectation you had that was met and then one that wasn't? And I would like to actually kind of hear from some of you tonight about maybe an expectation that you had about the school that you want us to know about, either that it's been met really well or it's been a challenge for you to see it here. So if you look at it, let me pick the December group, okay? That one said they felt that one of the expectations that was met is high quality instruction, being part of a professional social work community, and their positive field experience. But then on the other side of that, what was one expectation that was not met is diversity and support, practical skills, which we hear a lot from students wanting more depth, and then the challenging curriculum. Many students have reported to us over time that they don't feel challenged. They come in really excited to be challenged, and they feel like they're not getting challenged in all of the classes the way they had expected to. So I just wanted you to have some of this as a background, because it's always good to have data and be able to think about this data for the future. And the other thing I wanted to mention here too is we have been trying to struggle with what's the role of the advisor and what do graduate students want from the advisor. And a lot of times most students come out of the program and say, I've seen my advisor twice or maybe once, just at the opening thing. And they use a lot of other faculty as informal mentors. And then others have very positive and strong relationships with their advisor, and they actually have helped them a lot in their own professional development and to doing the job search, helping them prepare for the next step. So we do know there's a wide range of variation on what advisors have been offering to students, as also what students want from advisors. So that's another area that we really need more input. So that's just the data from this past year. It's consistent with data we've gotten the 3 years prior to last year. So this doesn't look much different than what we've gotten from other students. But this is the first year we're going to be able to do major change with it with the curricular reform. Okay. So I'm really open to hearing any ideas or thoughts people have about getting data like this. What other data do you want? Because I can pull other things for you, because we want you to know what we know. Okay. Questions? It's nothing like handing out the paper and having you think right away. So if you do have questions for me, feel free to send me some questions. If there's data that you would like to see that we haven't given you at this point, and I have it, I'm happy to give it to you. Okay? All right. Oh, we do have a question. Good.
So I was actually wondering what the role of an advisor is. It just doesn't seem very clear to me, and I'm one of those people that have got more help from other faculty. And actually, I met with my advisor once, and he was kind of dismissive. And in the middle of talking with him, he answered the phone and started talking to somebody else. And I asked him, "Well, what about this information? What, I made this appointment. I thought we were going to go over it." And he said, "Well, just go talk to this person." So I'm a little unclear what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, we are too at sometimes. We think it's clear in the faculty advisor handbook. We actually have one, and it talks about the importance of different roles with the faculty advisor. One is, most of you can read your course statements, those course planning worksheets. Advisors don't need to go over the course planning worksheet in a lot of detail with you. If you look at it and these are the courses to take. So we really have wanted the advisors to be more of a mentor in helping you in your professional development. So thinking about what are the types of things that you need in order to launch yourself as a social worker. Some advisors are really good at that. Some advisors are very uncomfortable with that. So we've got to look at what training we're going to be doing to help faculty to become more mentors. And I think it's going to be natural, even if we have all great advisors, that you're going to go to the people that you trust the most and that you feel like maybe they were in your instructor in your class, but you still should have an advisor that you can go to. So the other thing that I think Tim's office can say too is that we try to match you with advisors that are in either your concentration area or your practice area, so that there should be some overlap based on their research or their background a bit. So I'm sorry to hear that you were kind of shut down, because that's not what's in the faculty advisor handbook. So, but that's not an unusual experience that we're hearing. And before I move on to the next person, I did want to let the dean has been leading a strategic planning charge too with the university and the school. So I thought maybe if you wanted to just give a couple key themes about where we're going with that before we move to the next one, would that be okay?
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. And I've just put together a draft of the strategic plan. We've been working on it. Last spring's cohort of students helped us with it. We did a big alumni crowdsourcing community organization tool to get a lot of alumni input. And I'm going to just tell you what our 5 strategic goals are. And this spring, we're going to be seeking input from students. We're thinking of using a social media platform as well as maybe having some in-person meetings as well, just to maximize the opportunities for input. So first of all, we committed ourselves, and you heard today the work is already underway. We're taking a serious look at each of our academic programs, because we want our University of Michigan academic program to be at the very top, to be preparing the most influential practitioners of the future, and that's all of you. So we're looking at the MSW program, but we're also looking at our undergraduate minor, and we're thinking, should we have a broadened role in undergraduate education at Michigan? And what that is, it doesn't necessarily mean a major, but we're looking at that. We're looking at our PhD program. It's celebrated its 60th anniversary this year. It's been a leader in the field in terms of producing social work academics and researchers, and we're looking again toward the future. How can we ensure that it's going to be producing the leaders of the future as it has in the last 60 years? So that's just goal 1. The second goal is we have really committed ourselves to providing more access and better supports for our students. So what does that mean? As some of you know, we're taking a look at how we distribute financial aid, and we're really thinking about how can we do a better job to meet needs within the limited resources we have. That's just one example. There's a lot of other things. I want to see more. I want to see more students and more from economically diverse groups have a chance to get a Michigan MSW education. And that's going to take a lot of fundraising. Part of my job is to raise funds to help support students, and I'm committed to doing that. But I think that our mission of our school says we want to create social change, and what a better way to create social change than to give students an opportunity, a diverse group of students, an opportunity to get in Michigan MSW. So access is a big, and we're looking at financial aid, we're looking at supports for students, a lot of dimensions of that. A third goal is, of course, we're in a research university and we're a very top ranked research faculty. So we're talking about linking research, not only continuing to be high performance in research, but linking it to socially engaged impact. So President Schlissel, the university president, is talking about public scholarship and engaged scholarship. And honestly, I think quite a few faculty think we should be leaders on campus. And that means making opportunities for students to be involved in research and having a very generative back and forth between our curriculum programs and our and the scholarship that our faculty are doing. Of course, we already have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, but we still wanted to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in our school-wide strategic plan. So that's a kind of crosswalk, and Lorraine's going to be talking more about that. Um, all of you were here this fall term, right? And so you all witnessed or interacted with the very uncomfortable issues about climate, about the culture in our school, and we are very committed to moving forward with that. And will you be talking about the climate task force? Lorraine will tell you about a task force we're just convening to really help us think through. And I noticed too on some of the data feedback Mary shared with you that a couple of cohorts of students said, but they didn't feel like they belonged. And that's something we're concerned about. We've gotten some of that feedback. And so we want your ideas for how we can increase the sense of inclusion. To me, that really speaks to inclusion in the community. And that's different than just attracting a diverse group. That means really making the culture be accommodating, welcoming, and everyone have a place to feel a part in it. And then our fifth goal is, let's see, community engagement. So we want to see, we've always had a lot of interactions in Detroit. It's just one of our communities. So community is at a local level, a regional or state level, but also global level, right? And we think our schools should be distinctively engaged, not just academic ivory tower, and of course, everyone's in field education, so you are engaged in that way. But we want to see more opportunities for engagement, more opportunities to create change, have an impact, whether it's here on campus or whether it's in our state, whether it's in the city of Detroit. And we're really thinking about how we can be the leaders on campus for the campus engagement plan. So that's just a little snapshot about the strategic plan, and I really look forward to all of your input on it.
I guess one of the things before Lorraine comes up here is I just hope you're getting a sense of how fluid things are right now in the school, because they are. And your input can change the direction for future students.
So, good evening. I really appreciate you coming and joining us for dinner and also for this discussion. So I'm Lorraine Gutierrez. I'm the director of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office in the School of Social Work. I'm also a faculty member in the school, also a faculty member in the Department of Psychology and in the Latino Studies program. And I'm also a U of M alum from our PhD program in social work and psychology. So I've had the experience of being a student here a long time ago and also been on the faculty for a little bit over 20 years. So I was around for the last curricular renewal change. I just want to give that introduction because I know probably a lot of you may not have ever even seen me because I am doing these admin things a lot and am teaching, but am not teaching a lot of large classes. I wanted to say just at the beginning a little bit about what the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office is. We're part of the DE&I plan for the entire university. So every school and many of the different units like the libraries and the hospitals all have diversity, equity, and inclusion plans. They all have some buddies, usually more than one person who's been asked to sort of shepherd that plan as it goes forward. Each unit has a 5-year plan that relates to the priorities of the university. And the intent is to have the plan be grounded in whatever is going on in that unit. So what we're doing is social work is going to look different from what we're doing in the Ross School, and that's going to look different from what's going on in psychology or in English, because we're all different units with different kinds of students and different kinds of missions. We put together our strategic plan in 2016 with a really, really participatory process. of lots of students. I would say MSW students had a lot of voice in that process. There was some, not very much, but some doctoral student involvement, faculty involvement, and there was staff involvement. So what we developed in our plan is something that reflected what was going on in the school and in the world at that time. And I think it's still very relevant to what's going on today. But each unit is also asked to renew their plan on an annual basis. So if you go to our diversity, equity, and inclusion section of the School of Social Work website, we have like a little section. It actually has our plan. So if you're really interested in this, I doubt anyone here will probably do this, but you might be this interested. You can actually read the plan and talk about what were the needs that were identified at that time, what kinds of data were collected, how did it was a process that was used, and then what is our plan? We have 25 strategic outcomes we're trying to achieve. And for each of those 25 strategic outcomes, we also have at least 5 what are called action steps. So action steps are, okay, how are we going to achieve the outcome? Those of you who might be macro, you might find it interesting because it gives you a good example of what a really good strategic plan can look like. So strategic plan is not just, oh, here are the problems and issues, but it also talks about, okay, here's what we're going to try to do about it. And here's what we're going to try to do over a 5-year period. So a lot of things were for year 1. Right now we're in year 2. Now there's going to be 3, 4, and 5. Some things we're going to continue every year. In fact, a lot of them we are. Some things might just be for 1 year. We actually might like fix it or achieve it, and then we might not have to continue to do those things. So again, on our website, along with my picture and Lauren's picture and our students, there's our strategic plans if you're really curious about what it is that our school has committed to do over the next 5 years. Nishoran was also involved in the process of creating the strategic plan. So our vision of the school never had an office for diversity, equity, and inclusion until that was part of the plan, was to have an office. And we sort of opened shop about a year ago. It was January 2017. I was appointed as the director, and then Lauren Davis, who's sitting back there, is the program manager, and so she does a lot of the day-to-day work on the in the office. The vision of the office is that we're not necessarily doing a lot of things ourselves. We're doing things in concert with all the different offices and programs and organizations in the school, because that's the way you make organizational change. If we said, oh, we're just going to take care of that and you guys can just do whatever you were going to do anyway, that's not going to change how we go about doing other things. So this is a strategy for organizational and structural change. So some of the things we do are very visible to you. It's different programs we do, different activities we do. Some things we do are probably very invisible to you because it's behind the scenes planning and in meetings and talking with people and talking about a year from now what we might do. So, we want to do visible things because we know that there are needs that need to be met, like more immediately. It can't all be the long term. But if we don't do the long term, then it's sort of like we're just going to be addressing the symptoms, but not maybe some of the things that are creating problems. We have opportunities for student involvement in our office. We currently have 2 MSW interns working with us, and 2 MSW interns. Excuse me. So it is a field placement site for any macro student who might be interested in this kind of work. We have work study students. So if a student's interested in having their work study be working with our office, that's available. And you've probably interacted with many of these students, Sydney, Kaya, Colleen, and Erica, at various points of the different kinds of things that you've been doing as well. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update of what we've been doing and sort of things into the future. And then I'm going to invite Lauren if she wants to correct or add anything to what I said, because we're really doing a lot of stuff. It's like, this is just like highlights. First of all, we have a new logo. So we had a logo contest. We got some really good submissions so if you were any faculty, staff, or student could submit a logo to be the logo for our office. And an MSW student, Maya Malad, won the contest. I don't know if you remember, but many hundreds of students, faculty, and staff actually voted on the different designs. So it was very participatory, and hers was a design that got the most positive votes. And then we've worked our with our communications office and with a graphic designer to make sure that the logo conforms to the standards of the University of Michigan, because everything has to have the same look and feel. So you're going to be getting, if you haven't gotten it already, a DNI office newsletter that we just sent out that will have our logo on it, so you'll be able to see it. And I'm really pleased with how that turned out. It's really great. And there was a prize for the logo, which is I think a whole bunch of student union swag stuff. I think is what we decided on. Okay, so I just want to highlight student programming. We've done a number of things. Early this semester, we worked with the Ginsberg Center to bring them to do what they call the 3 E's workshop, which is about how to respectfully enter, engage, and exit a community. We didn't get the kind of participation we had hoped for, but I do hope we'll do something like that again, hopefully with them, because I do think it's a very, very high quality workshop to really help students. It's really good to just think about how do you mindfully get involved with a community that you're not a part of, or you may have been a part of, but you haven't been there for a while, and really thinking about what's a good role for a student, especially since you're not going to be there forever. So that exiting piece is like really important. Right now, we're engaged in a project for Black History Month called the Celebration of Black Excellence. And we have asked for nominations of staff, students, and faculty who embody Black excellence in some ways. So we've gotten some nominations. We'd love to get more, I think. Right, Lauren? Yeah? Okay. And we will have a display up in the school later this month of sort of who's been nominated and why. So we're doing that for Black History Month. We're working with the Office of Student Services, with Ms. Shorn in particular, on a social justice sort of series where we've been bringing in faculty and students and outside speakers to talk about different social justice issues and approaches to social justice. I think those have been going really well. We've been doing some movie and discussion events that might be during the day or in the early evening. So the most recent one was I Am Not Your Negro, which is about James Baldwin, which was very well received. And we've partnered, practically everything we're doing is partnering with somebody in the school. So it might be an office like OGA, it might be a student organization like NABSW or the Latinx Student Organization. So we're really working together with different people. Faculty development activities. So, we hear that and we understand that many of the faculty could use more education, training, background, and support for educating around diversity, equity, and inclusion and around pods. So both Barb and I are members of what's called the Inclusive Teaching Network, which is a university network that's all focused on inclusive teaching methods and how do we help faculty in our unit bring that into their courses. We had a workshop for faculty last semester on how to discuss current events in your classroom, because we heard from students that was not always happening when students would have liked to have done that. And we think personally it's very important. And also, we're going to be doing some training with the faculty and staff that Lynn has connected us with an organization that does unlearning racism workshops, which is focused on white supremacy and fighting white supremacy. And so there'll be information later. That will be this year for faculty and staff to sort of get us more on board with sort of understanding some of these concepts and some of these methods. Staff development, we've worked on expanding more opportunities for the staff to get involved in different kinds of diversity training and diversity workshops. There are a lot of these workshops across campus that are available for staff, but some of our staff didn't know if they could take time off or participate during the workday. And so we've really worked on making that more feasible for them, and also made it possible for all staff to attend Martin Luther King symposium events if they chose to, and to get permission from their supervisors, but making that more available to more of our staff. The last thing I just want to mention is, which Lynn mentioned, is that I will also be chairing, and this is part of our office, a school climate task force, which will begin meeting tomorrow afternoon. So it's a task force made up of faculty, staff, and students, both MSW and PhD students. The student union identified and 2 students who will be participating. And we're going to start meeting tomorrow afternoon. And the goal of the climate workshop is, first of all, to look at all the data we already have. We have a lot of data from our strategic planning process. The university is doing surveys of all the staff and all the faculty and all the students around the climate, around diversity, that we've had pretty good response rates to. So we've already gotten the staff data. We're waiting for the faculty and the student data to come from the organization that did these surveys. So we'll have those data. Then we're going to decide if there are more things that we need to learn that aren't in, the exit surveys will be part of that. So we have a lot of information, but we might decide we want to get a little bit more. And once we scan all the information we have and look at it, we'll decide on that. And then the idea is to really come up with some recommendations for the school. And the goal is to have those recommendations by midsummer. So have a report that will come out from the committee by midsummer that then will go to the administration to really think about how can we go about addressing some of these climate issues. So there may be opportunities for students also to have further input into this process once we meet tomorrow and figure out exactly how we're going to proceed. So any questions about anything I talked about? Do you want to add anything, Lauren? No, that was good. Yeah, we're doing so many things. It was like, we have a survey, for example, right, for students where you can provide input on things you think our office should be doing. And we do look at those and we try to figure out, how we can address them. No questions? Okay, one thing I wanted to add, and I probably should have, is that when we talk about diversity in terms of our DE&I plan, we are talking about multiple types of diversity. So we're talking about race, culture, religion, disability, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, religious and political beliefs. So we're really talking about many, many, many dimensions of diversity. And they're the dimensions of diversity that our professional organizations have identified as the types of diversity that social workers should be prepared to work with, not just to understand, but also to be advocates and supportive of. Okay, thanks.
Hello. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here from 5:30 to now, and it's really exciting to hear from every sectors of our school to come together and then just discuss about our plans and what's going to happen in the future. It's super exciting. My name is Shia Chen. I am the ombudsperson in the student union. I'm here to just give you some updates about student union. What happened here? Okay. So first thing, I believe that Christina, our vice president, she sent out an email about Teacher of the Year application yesterday. I know we all get plenty of emails every day, and I think if you can just dig into your inbox and then find Christina, or just typing Teacher of the Year application, you will see that. So the purpose of this, this is something that Student Union does every year. We want to, well, while we get our teachers and then instructors and professors and classes pouring out to us, we also want to appreciate them every year. And so we welcome everybody to nominate your professor, nominate your teacher, instructor, and then it can be a professor, it can be just a Leo professor, and it can be your field instructor and anybody who is in the classroom teaching you. And so feel free to just nominate it, send an email to the student union inbox, and then we will be able to just gather all the information. And it's due on the 23rd of February at 5 p.m. So make sure that you send that to us before that. Then the second thing is the student event social work symposium. This is something that's super exciting too. This is something that the School of Social Work, mainly like student initiated, is going to lead a symposium from 9:30 to 4 on March 23rd. And this is where we recognize that we have a lot of students who are really talented in a lot of places, and then they have a lot of work that they have done in either their classes or other like sectors in their field or other commitments, and we really want to recognize that. And so we are calling for abstracts now. The deadline is on February 16. And so it's also in your inbox. And one thing that I want to point out is that the dean, the dean sent out a newsletter every week, and at the bottom of the newsletter, we have like all the events and all the updates there. And so if you don't want to like go over all your emails like one by one, make sure to check that newsletter every week, because it's pretty comprehensive and it has a lot of information like from every offices and also student organizations. And so the information is there, and then you can find it from there. And so if you are very passionate about what you're doing and you really want to share with like the whole school, and we're looking into like potentially inviting people from people outside of the School of Social Work and also people outside of the U of M. And so it will be a chance for you to really show your expertise. Okay, the third thing is the newsletter coming soon from the student union. It's going to be in later February. So the student union send out a newsletter every semester, I believe. Yeah, every semester. And so this is going to be at the end of February. And we are calling for student organizations to send us your information and also send us what you do, because we really want it to be a collective work. So the student union is not just about what we are doing. We'll also want to highlight what the other organizations and other students are doing. And so if you are holding some events during the semester, and then if you have some really exciting updates that you want us to publicize it, then let us know. And it doesn't need to be your organization or anything. It can be just about what you do and then what's your work. And so make sure you send it to us too. Last but not least, get involved. We're just very excited about the whole town hall and then every updates that our admins just gave us. But at the same time, we feel like it's also our obligation, like as students, like we need to be the one who's actively getting involved and then actively contacting our professor or contacting our staff to get counsel and also provide feedbacks. And so send an email to Mary, send an email to Barb about your ideas for the curriculum and then anything that you have. From a student's point of view, like I feel like since I have been a student here, like the school has been really supportive about everything that we want to do. But at the same time, like we need to speak out our voices. And so I really encourage, and the student union really encourage all our students to stand along with us and then give our voices out, and then in a good way to make our school better and better every day. And so there are also committees around like the curriculum committee, and then maybe in the future the field committee, and also a lot of like financial committee. There are a lot of committees, and then you probably already got emails from the student union too about like calling people to come like stand up and then to join the committee. These are really, really, I would say like rewarding things that we can do for the school, and also it's really building our own capacity as students and also future social workers. And so it's really fun and it's really cool. Last thing is grants for events. I know that we have grants from DI, and then we also from DI, or like students can contact DI for if they want to do something, but also specifically OGA. They have been sending out emails calling for events proposal, and then the student union also provide grant for your conferences. So there's $75 support from the student union if you want to go to a conference and you need funds. And then you can always contact Kelsey, who is our treasurer. She will be able to assist you with that. And we usually, we really want to support our students. And so talk to us and let us know what you need. And we will try to help you to see what we can do. So that's everything I have. Any questions? Oh, thank you. And I think Barbara, do you want to come over or?
Just about the next slide.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So professors like to profess. So we went on a little longer maybe than we had intended. But the floor is now yours for things that you want to hear, whether it was about something we talked about or something that we didn't talk about. If you've got questions that are left or comments, things that you want us to know. There's that. It's being recorded, so they can't hear you unless you have the mic.
Yeah, so I came in a little bit late, but there was a big emphasis on diversity, and we talked about how diversity could entail many things. But I didn't really hear too much on the support and from a student's perspective coming into the School of Social Work, especially coming into that assembly that we had in Ross Business School. Um, that was a big shock for me. And that was like my first introduction to the School of Social Work. And that goes back into feeling welcome. So if I missed it or if I didn't miss it, can somebody kind of elaborate on the support systems that are being in place for students to feel welcome here?
I wonder, Lorena, you might have something to say, and I wonder, Tim, if you want to say something too about orientation and some of the changes in welcoming that's happening.
Like when you first get here. Well, it's at the top of the whole. So yeah, so assembly we've been going to school. So yeah, that's the introduction. But it's
I would love to maybe talk with you and other students more who see this as an issue, because we could sort of think about what would be the different points of intervention within the school where we could think about how we could be more effective in creating more welcoming environments. Certainly that's part of our climate task force. But I think you're talking about like the composition of classes and who's teaching the courses. We are working, I didn't talk about it, I had my notes, but I didn't talk about it. I was trying to be faster, about, the hiring of faculty from more racially and ethnically and culturally diverse backgrounds. We have been very successful with that last year. And this year so far, we're being very successful with our faculty hiring. But that's a long-term process. Like, for example, last year we hired some people, but they're not teaching this year and they're not teaching as much because when people first come, they have an adjustment period. And so they don't have to teach as many classes. So you haven't met some of the people who we hired. So I know that that's a concern of students often, is sort of who's represented as an authority in the school, or who do you see teaching the courses as an expert in the field. But I would love for us also just in our office to hear sort of what concerns people have, because that's something that if people do have concerns, we'll have a discussion and we'll sort of figure out, well, is this something that we need to change in a big way, or is there something that an office or a committee could be doing that could be more effective? Really try to assess that. I know that there's a committee that either Lauren or I have gone to, I think, all the meetings which are planning the orientation and the first week for this upcoming class. So if there are things that we could be thinking about doing in that initial introduction to the school, it's a good time to provide some input because we haven't figured it all out yet for this August.
First of all, I'd be interested in what would have been helpful for you that wasn't provided. So maybe we can talk about that. I think probably I just would highlight one thing that we're expanding, that we're really hopeful will help, and that's to offer the mentoring program to all the incoming students to the program. We've offered it to uh, first generation students and to non-residents who tend to be in a position where they need to develop a local support network when they come, but we want to have it available for everyone this fall. We're also looking at some activities that hopefully there's a scavenger hunt. There's a panel of current students that we're going to incorporate into orientation this year, a little bit on an introduction to the profession of social work, all of which we're hopeful will build a better cohesive um, cohort coming in. But like I said, I'd be interested in some ideas that would have been helpful for you, because those are just some of the things that we've come up with that are changes. But there certainly are other things that I'm sure folks could come up with that would be suggestions for us to put into this process of the orientation planning. And also, I think the idea of what do we do right after orientation, because sometimes there's this excitement and everyone's here, and there are opportunities to meet with folks in orientation. Then we get into school and it's hitting a wall of like, in a different experience. So I'll turn it back over to you for more feedback.
So one thing that I like to do is give a positive as well. And one thing that has worked for me, that I'm grateful for, is the new leaders program that I'm in. So that was a great support system, and that was something that really helped me navigate and support me throughout my journey thus far. So that's a positive. Um, but in regards to the orientation, the assembly, it's called orientation. Okay, yeah. So so in regards to the orientation, just just going, going to campus, like, okay, wow, I'm here, and then going there, not really knowing what to do, and like, okay, just go ahead, get your paper and whatnot, and then just walking into that assembly room, and you're just looking. Okay, the first thing that I'm looking for, like, okay, do I see anyone I would see? And so when I'm doing that, I'm gauging, and I'm like, oh, this is really intimidating. This is kind of scary, and I kind of pride myself on being someone that can kind of navigate and be able to balance. And for me, it was intimidating. So I can only imagine for other students. I don't know if that's any insight, but that was my perception of my experience. I can go in more detail, but I don't want to take up too much space. Um, so anyone else wants to add?
Other comments, thoughts, questions?
I would just encourage anyone who has thoughts on how to address the issue that's brought up to shoot me a note over email, because we are in the process, a group of us, of looking at not just orientation, but this whole idea of transitioning into the program and how we can, and I think it's also part of what uh, the Reigns group will be looking at, because it's a climate issue, and it's like how do you welcome a large group of people, because there's 400 people into the school in a way that it's not intimidating, in a large auditorium where some people may see a lot of folks that look like themselves, and other folks maybe not so much. So I think if you have ideas to let us know, because we want to make this a welcoming place. We don't want people to be intimidated. So I appreciate you bringing the issue up, and I would hope that everybody would give us their ideas on what might be helpful in this way.
Just to kind of echo what Akeem was saying, when I like talking about like expectations of things when we got here, I expected, like, I know that there's been a push to work on the diversity of our instructors, which I think is great, and I would like to encourage that same effort be put towards the students that are here as well, and that was just something I was very surprised by. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted.
Yeah, can I respond to that? Sorry. So that is part of our strategic plan, is to increase the diversity of our student body. I didn't mention that, but in fact, our staff and our educators, the people who are teaching in the school. So it's not like we sort of left one of them out. And currently in the MSW program, I would say about a third of the MSW incoming class this year were people who self-identified as people of color. That's a self-identification that people make about their racial background. So there are people who choose not to answer that question. But of those who answer the question, about a third are people of color. There are people who might, I can say might be more visible. I know there are people who look at me and don't realize I'm a person of color, but I'm Latina and I'm mixed, Native American and white, Mediterranean primarily. So, there might be people who just may not be as visible to others. I would say that most Latinos see me as a Latino, but someone who's not in the group might not. So there might be people also who might be biracial or multiracial who may not be as visible, easily visible as others. So, I'm just saying that because it might be hard to believe that it's like a third of the student body, especially if you're in particular classes. But I think we could do better. We're not saying, oh, a third, okay, fine. We're saying we need to, have, more diversity. And I think what Dean Videka was saying, a lot of it has to do with thinking about how we go about doing things, the kind of support we provide, both financial and other kinds of support.
I just want to add one thing to that. The other thing is there have been some efforts this year from the doctoral office to incorporate MSW students into thinking about doctoral education too, and I think they had a special weekend. So we are trying different things, but it's also the next steps, that not just how did you get here, but then where do you go from here?
So this doesn't speak to representation, but I'm not surprised that in two of these categories of expectations not met, that there's like a lack of like community. That's been something that I've personally felt, and I've been hearing within the student body, and it is super hard because we just have a huge cohort coming in. So I'm the social chair on the student union, and something that I'm really trying to do. And also another student, Brooke Sinclair, approached me, and we're trying to make it easy for people to support people to hold their own social events, to try to connect with people that have similar identities, similar interests, to be able to connect with each other as humans and not just social workers. We're still working on what that would look like, and so it wouldn't like be burdensome on anyone to like host an event, but like we're hoping to like reach a diverse amount of people to host events so that we can reach a diverse amount of people to participate in the events. So if you have any ideas or want to get involved in that, it would be super awesome to connect with you. So you could connect with me from my email, KANILSEN, that at UMich. But also there's like the student union listserv. You could just email that, and then I can get connected with anyone who's interested. in that, because I'd love for us to feel like we're more of a cohesive unit, and then also be able to connect with the people that are our people in the program.
That idea of making the school feel smaller, I'm not sure I've been in a meeting in the last 6 months where that has not been a topic of conversation. What can we do to help the school feel smaller? Because it's huge, right? 400 incoming students every year. It's just really easy to get lost in that. And I'm not sure that, although we've tried lots of things, so social ideas is one, learning communities were another, special programs have been one. I don't know that we've found the right thing yet. So I really hope that folks will keep bringing ideas forward. You leaving for class? Class starting? Thank you. All right. There was a big silence before that anyway. So unless there is anything else, any other questions or comments people wanted to make? Okay. So I am going to send out a video link to this after today, so people who are not here could watch it. I had an idea from a student that we send out a little survey with that video link asking what topics we could cover in the future. I thought that was a really good idea, so I'll include that as well. Our next town hall is on the 29th of March. I know that talking about the building and space renovations was one thing that people wanted us to talk about, but open to other ideas.